A lot of us, a lot of the listeners here will know you, Hugh, from the Hawkwind that we play on the station here.
Yeah.
And, boy, you've played, you were a founding member in Hawkwind, were you not?
I was there at the beginning pretty well, yeah. I think, so, as far as I can remember, those days are fairly hazy. But no, I was there, yeah, beginning, yeah.
And as well as Hawkwind, boy, you've got a successful solo career. And I've got 3 of your albums. There's, 5 out or 6?
I think it's 6. Is it 6? You tend to lose count, you know. 1, 2, 3, at least 6, yeah. I think that might include there was an album put out called Outside the Law initially, which unfortunately was a bootleg. You know, one of the fans at the gigs recorded it and sent it off to the Flick Knife record company, and Frenchie rang me up and said, I have this very good tape, and I think we should make some money out of it. And, at the time, we weren't too healthy financially, and I thought, oh yeah, fair enough, why not? But then when I heard it, the recording quality was so bad, I tend not to even count that as one of my albums, really, because it's literally a bootleg. You know, but there's quite a few people seem to like it, but it's totally raw and probably one of the most honest live albums ever put out, I think. You know. But there you go.
Outside the Law, I think, it's on one of your other releases. The song itself is, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah. In fact, it was on the first thing my solo project was a single for Flick Knife, and Outside the Law was one of the 2 tracks on the single.
Seems to
In fact, they decided to put the other side out as the A side. Although over the years, more people than often have suggested that Outside the Law would have been a better bet, you know. But there you go. Such is life, you know. Such is c'est la vie.
Did Frenchie ever pay you for that? I know when I was speaking with Dave Brock. This is some years ago now, that they hadn't got paid for any of the Friends and Relations albums.
No, he didn't pay us anything as far as I know, you know. If he paid anything over to anybody, I never saw any of it, but he seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth, you know, so nobody can collar him for anything, so... But there you go. So such is the music game, you know.
So the album Night Air, that I think was out on Flick Knife, is there any way that listeners can still get that?
Well, in fact, it's literally just been transferred to CD, and it's being put out on voice print. Do you know voice print?
Yeah, I've got a couple albums on voice print, as a matter of fact.
And they've just transferred it to CD, so it's now available on CD.
And your new album is out on your own label, I believe.
Allegro, yeah, Chain Reaction.
Marion was nice enough to send me that album, just as it come out, actually.
Yeah, jolly good. What did you think of it?
Well, it's got a lot of airplay, and wouldn't get airplay if I didn't get phone calls about it.
Glad to hear it.
Myself, though, I like the album. It's
it's fairly diverse, and in fact, it's the first... the last couple of albums I've done have involved a lot of drum machines and stuff, which I don't particularly like myself, you know. I much prefer to work with a living, breathing drummer, you know. But sometimes these living, breathing drummers can let you down, you know. So, but the Chain Reaction was done with a full band, you know. And a lot of it was played almost live, you know. So I'm quite happy with that one. And most people I speak to seem to be quite happy and impressed with it. So, which is the main thing, you know.
You've played with a fair amount of people over your career. For a fella that's played with as many bands that you've been in. And in fact, you're quite a guitar player yourself. You had a column in a magazine.
Oh yeah. That it was at the time time it was a new magazine guitarist, a British. I don't know whether it's available elsewhere. I presume it probably is available elsewhere on the planet, because it's been an ongoing thing now. But I was involved with the original few, 6 copies, I think. I think I had a 6-copy column, you know. It was quite a strain, really. It takes quite a lot of brain work to think of new things all the time when you're writing a column just on the one subject, you know. But it was I'm glad I did it, you know. But yeah.
I've got a couple of questions here from fans and listeners from around the world that knew that I was going to be speaking with you and have sent me some questions to ask, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
There's a fellow named Ian Abrams, and he writes in, a lot of Hugh and Marion's songs seem to be about the disconnections between people and a heartful plea to just care about each other.
Well, definitely. That all the lyrics are basically sort of heartfelt, I believe. Even the Black Sword numbers that I wrote, you know, the Michael Moorcock thing that Hawkwind did, even the lyrics that we wrote around his stories were concerning like people and situations that can be transferred to the real world, you know. It's always sort of aimed at, I don't know, I'm trying to, I don't know, either open people's eyes a bit or shed a bit of peace and love, if you like, you know, basically.
There's, let's pull another question out of the hat here.
You've got a hat.
I got my Toronto Maple Leafs hat on. But yeah, a lot of the folks around have sent in some questions. I'd be more interested to know what does Hugh's future plans involve. He's been quite active in recent events such as the Hawkestra at Brixton, the Nick Wind at the Isle of Wight from last year and upcoming again. So does this mean that Hugh's heart has never really left the Hawkwind family, and maybe he finds it easier to play a couple of dates per year instead of being a full-time member and having to put more time and labor into the Hawkwind family?
Well, the actual Hawkwind family circumstances such that it is fairly sporadic at the moment, but I seem to be doing more and more with them, you know, and my heart's always basically been there. The last time I actually left them, the business thing was all going sort of askew and haywire, as things that have been doing over the years with Hawkwind on and off. And I was fairly sort of disheartened when I left them the last time, but any sort of bad feelings have gone under the bridge now, you know. So, and I seem to be doing more and more with them, but I'm also doing as much work as can possibly be arranged for my own band, and I do acoustic gigs, and in fact I've got an acoustic, well, it's at the charity thing on in Oxford in August, which I've done for the last 2 years. I don't know, I might even do that with my band, you know, because it's a very enthusiastic, good band, so but I mean, anything that comes up that Dave Brock invites me to do, I'll do it, you know, as long as my health holds out.
Well, playing in a band like Hawkwind's got to be hard on the health.
Well, playing in general in the music business is quite hard on the health, you know, because it's especially when one's not getting any younger. But no, it's a very hard game to be into, because it's as I say, it's all so sporadic. It can be very sort of stressful and frustrating, you know, which isn't any good for any of us human beings, you know.
I was speaking ahead, Ian Hunter on the show last week, who also just has a new album out.
Oh, yeah.
And he, now he's got, he's getting away from the management end of it. All he does now is just show up and play.
That's the best way to go about it. Yeah, most definitely. Because having anything to do with the finances and management is, that for me is the worst part of the business, because basically, most musicians are in it because we're lazy artists of whatever kind, and the last thing that you really want to be involved with is the business side and financial side of things. But unfortunately, it sometimes overtakes you, and you have to get involved, unfortunately, But it's by far better just to ignore all that,
So if Hugh wasn't a guitar player and he wasn't a musician, what would Hugh Lloyd-Langton be doing?
Well, I was always in my younger day, in my school days, the only thing I really was interested in was art. So it has to be one of the creative, artistic. I was completely disinterested in anything else, even though the majority of my family. My mother was a nurse, my father was a pharmacist, and it's all sort of doctors and that sort of thing. But I think the musical thing comes from my mother, who's Welsh and always liked singing, and she dragged me and my sister off to chapel whenever she could, just to sing the hymns, So, but being into art, music is art anyway. So it's not far removed from painting and drawing, So
just a different canvas.
Oh yeah, basically, yeah. But I think I don't know which area would be harder to sort of get anywhere with musical art. I think chances are it would be harder with being an artist, a painter, drawer, because it's a lot a book of paper and a couple of pencils are a lot cheaper than guitar and amp.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Yeah, most certainly. So it's probably a hell of a lot more people that are good with pencil and paper or paint and paper than are with instruments.
I've got another question here. This is from yet another person named Brian, and he's here in Saskatchewan, actually.
Yeah.
It says, here's a question. If he could assemble a dream band, what members would he include, and what type of music would he play? Space rock like Hawkwind, or more blues rock orientated, as appears on your solo albums?
That is an almost impossible question. In fact, Marion did say that you'd said you'd asked her the question, but she thought you meant the Dream Hawkwind outfit.
I think there's...
Obviously not. That's a different question.
Well, there's
Dream
both...
Band. That is such a grief. He's really got me there, because there are so many amazing musicians about, and in fact I'm so open-minded musically. That's now an impossible one for me to answer, really.
Marion mentioned that you're a Jeff Beck fan.
I do. He's got to be one of my favourite box players, yeah. Because he's so versatile. But in fact, when she mentioned that you said that, I did happen to mention the other day I'd heard Beck's new album, and there's so many sort of spacey orientated rhythmical things on it. I said he ought to get together with old Dave Brock at some point.
You think that would work well?
God knows. I really don't. Because I don't really know Beck, so I don't know how well he'd get on with old Brocky. And as far as I know, they both can be quite awkward characters, But they're both highly talented in their own respects, Right. But as a dream band, I really, grief. That's a very myself incredibly hard, because I mean a lot of the bands I've actually worked with have been almost dream bands. I mean, except that certain of the people have let the situations down on occasion, you know. So that's one I definitely have to sort of sit and think about for at least a week to give you a realistic answer. You know?
Well, it's sort of like listening to music, I guess. There's no favorite song because people their tastes change all the time.
Oh yeah, certainly, yeah. Well, what are you asking me if I got a favourite song?
Yeah, hey, there is a good question. Is there somebody that you're listening to right now that's really catching your attention?
As I say, I've got such a diverse taste in music. I do like quite a lot of jazz rock, as in Zawinul. You know Joe Zawinul, who was with Weather Report.
I know the name, but I don't know his solo music. No.
Yeah, since I don't think Weather Report exists anymore. But I recently acquired a couple of his solo albums, and I do like that sort of. I'm very much into sort of highly percussive stuff.
Right.
And he tends to deal with a lot of percussion, you know, even though it's very keyboard orientated. And the Chick Corea I've always liked. I mean, there's Jean-Luc Ponty, particularly Jean-Luc Ponty. He's like a jazz, jazz rock more than jazz pianist, and he uses a lot of sounds, echo and stuff like that on his violin.
Well, he sure did some interesting stuff with Frank Zappa.
Oh yeah, well, exactly. You know, he's one of my favourite artists. You know, I do like the sort of jazzy rock influenced stuff. You know, but probably more rock than the jazz influence. You know, when they start getting into heavy jazz, I sometimes like it, but not all the time. And Pat Metheny I do like as a guitarist. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, my boss is a big Pat Metheny fan.
Yeah, I do like Pat Metheny, but the only trouble being his albums. A lot of the time, it's very hard to distinguish what's the guitar and what's the keyboards. You know?
Yeah.
But well, it's not that's not the trouble. But I always quite like to know who's playing the guitar and who's playing the keyboards, and on his albums, it tends to be a little bit hard to tell at times, you know.
Yes.
But I do like the sort of jazzy rock stuff and sort of modern classical stuff, you know. Well, not that modern, but weird stuff like Bartok, but Ravel as well, and stuff like that. And rock bands and things. I mean, I always did like the old Steely Dan. As I say, there's so much good stuff about it. It's almost impossible to say who I prefer out of a lot of them. You know.
Well, that's one good result of the cost of recording equipment coming down so much. You know, everybody can afford to put out stuff now.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. But there is so much stuff. I mean, there's so much stuff you don't even get a chance to hear. You know.
Right.
But those people I just mentioned, I tend to sort of listen out. Well, Jeff Beck as well, I do like him. He's one of you. Well, McLaughlin, who obviously likes Beck as well because Beck appeared on one of the albums that McLaughlin made.
You're talking about John McLaughlin?
Yeah.
From Mahavishnu Shoe Orchestra.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. But he I don't know the title of the album offhand, but I've got it downstairs, and it's that he's got various guests on it. One of whom is Jeff Beck, you know, which obviously means that the McLaughlin respects Beck, you know, which is good, you know, good. Well, so he ought, you know. But Beck's come out with some very unusual things over the years, you know.
I I've got another question here from a fellow named Michael Blackman. It says, "Hi Hugh, when would you like to take a holiday in sunny Australia? The red carpet is waiting."
Well, I think we're planning to go over there over at the end of the year. Marion's boss has sort of footed the bills to an extent because he goes over there quite often. So I believe we're actually due to go over there at the end of the year. That is, yeah. So I don't know whereabouts he lives, but I don't know exactly where the plans are where we're going. But you never know; you might bump into him.
Are you going to be playing there at all, or just vacation?
It's basically a vacation, but God willing, I'll take a guitar, and if I get invited, I'll get up and have a jam somewhere.
Maybe I'll buy tickets for Australia as well. He also has another question here. Do you miss being an influence on and a part of Hawkwind, or are you grooving along with your solo work and having a blast? I guess that's kind of the same question that one of the other fellows asked. But I do sometimes definitely miss sort of working in the Hawkwind circumstance because it's literally part of a band as opposed to working with my outfit. It's just more on my shoulders, but I enjoy that as well because there's quite a lot of stuff that myself and Marion have written over the years that wouldn't suit Hawkwind at all, you know. Right.
I mean, that's partially why my outfit was formed because we got the opportunity to put the single out with Flick Knife, and that hit the metal chart. So we thought, right, I'll take the band out on the road, you know. So and I was still with Hawkwind for a couple of years after my band was formed, but being able to go out with my own outfit, I could perform stuff that certainly wouldn't have suited Hawkwind, you know. So, but both situations sort of, for a time, worked quite happily hand in hand. But then business reared its ugly head and certain other things. So hence I split. But now it seems that as I say, I'm working sort of doing more with Hawkwind as time seems to go on. But my band still exists as well, so I'm totally happy with that situation because it can become a little bit stifling just working for one band.
Right.
Well, as you know, as so many artists over the years have realised, hence so many bands take a vacation from each other and go their separate ways for a time, but then God willing they eventually come back together again, you know. But it gives you a sort of fresh lease of life to an extent if you can get off and do your own thing and do what you have to, you know.
You've boy, I'm just going over the bio here, and you've played with some pretty impressive people.
Yeah.
Can we talk about some of them? I mean, other than Hawkwind, of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I see you work with some of the people from Little Feat. Pete Beckett, I think his name was.
Well, Pete Beckett, I did hear. I've never actually seen an album of Little Feat with Pete Beckett on it, but I did hear that he had joined them. I don't know how that actually worked out because I haven't spoken to Pete since he moved to America lots of years ago. What was it? He was with a band in America. I can't even a band called Player. They had a big #1 hit there and had an album out. And Pete's an excellent musician. Comes from Liverpool, home of the Beatles. You know, but he's a great all-round musician and good writer, good singer. But I saw him in America when Widowmaker were gigging over there. We were playing in Los Angeles, and he turned up at the gig just out of the blue, so it was really nice to see him. That I'm talking about, that was years ago now. But then he wasn't doing much at the time, but then And Marion was actually working for Robert Stigwood at the time, and Stigwood were managing Player.
Right.
And so Marion turned up home one night with this album by a band called Player, and the next thing they were they were number one in the American charts with their single. You know, I don't know if it was the album or the single that was number one, but
right.
he seems to have done incredibly well. Although, as I say, the last thing I heard, he joined Little Feat, but whether anything came of it or not, I don't know.
It's sort of like Mick Ronson joining Moth the Hoople. He was never on any Hoople albums.
No, right, yeah.
I see you also wrote some music for some animated cartoons, working with Viv Stanshall from the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band.
Yeah, I never actually got to see the cartoon because Marion actually went to the opening of it. So I never even got a copy of it, because in those days videos weren't that. Well, we certainly didn't have a video in those days. But yeah, but I was rode in as a guitarist, and I started playing. I tuned my guitar up and started playing a riff.
Right.
And the musical director said, "Oh, I like that," and we used that. So the music was my tune-up riff, and Stanshall put this poem thing. He narrated something over the top of it, but I never actually got to hear the finalised part of it, because I went off to America with Widowmaker. As I say, Marion went to the opening party, and somebody else, the musical director took credit for the music.
No.
You know, as some people do, you know, but there you go. I won't mention his name.
Probably related to Frenchie.
Well, it's quite possible, yeah, it's possible.
And speaking of Mott, you've been working with Ariel Bender from with Widowmaker, and I think you're on a new album with him as well. I could be mistaken on that one.
Well, in fact, Luther has been planning to do an album for some time. I've got the tapes, and I've done some rehearsing with him. But he tends to be somewhat of a scatty character, and it tends to take him quite a long time to actually sort things out, you know. So, God willing, it will come off. He did there was a bit of a hiccup in that the guy that he has been recording, you know, the guy that's been doing his producing and who owns the studio, died not long ago, so that's probably caused the hold up, you know. But we have been planning to go to the studio and record a new Ariel Bender album, or Luther Grosvenor album,
right?
Whatever you like to call him, Luther alias Ariel. You know.
Yeah.
Because there's some very good, strong stuff there, so it's well worth doing, and I hope it does come off. But knowing this business, I believe things when I see them anyway.
Right.
It's on the cards, but as I say, I mean, you know, believe it when I see it.
You toured with Leo Sayer.
Oh yeah, that was good fun, because it was basically really just an out-and-out session, you know. But it lasted for quite a few months, if not close to a year. But one of my oldest friends, a drummer called John Lingwood, who he's continually works, but he put me up for the job with Leo, and I didn't. I mean, Leo just took his word for it that I was a good player, so it was almost like I auditioned Leo as opposed to the other way round. But John Lingwood, I mean, who's he with? He's with a band called Snake at the moment, who's it's White Snake, but without Ian Coverdale. But prior to that, he's worked with Roger Chapman for a long time.
Right.
And Manfred Mann for a long time, and he's one of my oldest pals. While I was working in a guitar shop in London, he was working in a drum shop, sort of quite close by, and that's how we actually met. But and that was when we were both children, really, you know, a long time ago. But you know, John got me the gig with Leo, but that lasted a period. We didn't actually record any of the things we did were television things, like the Russell Harty show and something else, the Old Grey Whistle Test we were on.
Right.
Unfortunately, we haven't got any footage or recordings of it, you know, which is a shame as far as I'm concerned. I'd like to have heard it, you know, now to see what it sounded like then.
Right. And you played with the Pretty Things on one of the European tours?
Oh yeah. That was good. I enjoyed that. You know, although it was a shame that some of the gigs they were doing were quite very small, and I thought they deserved better. You know, having been around for that long. You know, I mean, almost being in contention with the Stones when the Stones kicked off. And as far as I know, Dick Taylor, who produced the very first Hawkwind album that I was on, the guitarist with Pretty Things. What was I going to say? Oh, hang on a minute. I was going to say something else then. I've lost my train of thought. But I thought it was sad for Dick and Phil May that certain of the gigs were by far too small. That's what I'm saying. That Dick was apparently one of the original guitarists with the Stones, apart from anything else.
Right.
Dick Taylor. And he left them for whatever reason, or got sacked for whatever reason. I don't know what exactly happened. I know he was one of the original members of Stones. But to say that it's sad that the Pretty Things have ended up doing silly little gigs in Europe when they were contenders for the Stones title in the early days, you know.
Right.
But it was good fun. So they did some very small gigs. So they did some quite large gigs as well. But it was good to work with them. And in fact, I mean, Phil May was a neighbour of ours, Marion and mine in London before he moved to Brighton some years ago.
Right.
So we knew Phil anyway. But I got a call from Dick one night, late one night, and asking me if I'd be interested in doing this tour with them, because the guitarist they were using had quite a few family problems or something. And I said, oh yeah, definitely, I'm well up for that. And Dick said, right, well, I'll meet you at the airport tomorrow then. so I got about 12 hours notice, which was a bit, you know, crazy as the music business is, you know, but it's well worth doing. I enjoyed that, you know.
Right. What you've got getting back to Hawkwind, you were on a fair amount of Hawkwind albums. Is there a favorite for you?
I always liked the original one.
Right.
The first one, because that was innovative in itself, you know, I mean, for the time. I mean, acoustic guitar and electric guitar and synth. Well, I mean, I don't even think you could buy a synthesizer in those days. It was just Dick Nick with his generators and echo machines and making all the sounds, you know. But there are some good tracks on that. I was very young at the time, so I was sort of inexperienced and slightly intimidated in that Dick Taylor, the Pretty Things guitarist, was producing it. So it could have been better where I was concerned, you know, my playing was concerned. But I think that album's a good one, you know. And I particularly like Levitation. It was a privilege to work with old Mr. G.B. Aker, Ginger Baker.
Right. That must have been a strange marriage, Hawkwind and Ginger Baker.
Not really. I mean, it was incredible how well. I mean, Ginger can play anything anyway, you know, any style. But it's funny in that Terry Ollis, the very original drummer,
right,
who was very young while he was playing with Hawkwind, his style was very similar to Ginger's in that Ginger's very percussive as opposed to just straight boom back, you know. Right. He's a very percussive drummer, but so was Terry. So his style, I mean, fitted the band incredibly well. I mean, had it not, and he was paid to come in and do the Levitation album as a session, you know. But then he was happy to sort of carry on touring with the band after that, and it's a shame that it all came to grief. I mean, a certain person sort of fell out with Ginger over a certain thing, and the veritable muck hit the fan, you know, and so it all fell to pieces. And that was while we were rehearsing for an American tour, and so it was a great show. And the tour had to be cancelled because the band fell to pieces at that point. But you know, as a person, I mean, he got on with everybody very well, until this particular
incident
question of something arose, and somebody disagreed with him, and everybody knew that Ginger was right, but Ginger's the sort of person, if you do cross him or fall out with him, he doesn't forget in a hurry. He holds grudges, you know, so
right.
It just disintegrated after that, which was a shame, because style-wise, his percussive drumming style fitted Hawkwind incredibly well, I thought, you know, and it actually sort of led it off into slightly different avenues as well.
Right.
Not taken away from the Hawkwind sound, but he was definitely his musical ability definitely added something, you know. And it's a shame, I thought, that ended when it did. You know, it could have gone on to by far greater things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But as bands are, you know, all a bunch of big kids, basically.
You know what album that you're on that I really like? I'm partial to live music, so of course I like live albums. A lot of people don't. But the Live Chronicles, I think you were just phenomenal on there.
Oh yeah, that's a damn good album. That is definitely one of my favourite ones, because you know, it's a very good live album. Yeah, I totally agree. Very good.
You and in fact, Marion wrote a track. It was on the Outtake or Out and Intake album. Was it Dream Dancers or Dragons and Fables?
Oh, Dragons and Fables, probably.
Yeah, and Marion got credit on the album for that. That's good to see.
Oh yeah, well she wrote the lyrics.
Did she?
Oh yeah, I mean, Marion's written a lot of the lyrics that we of the songs that we put out over the years. You know, so she's by far more fluent as a lyricist than I am. You know, I tend to have to be very highly motivated to write a lyric. I'm fairly fluent where the music's concerned, but lyrically, Marion, I mean, she's the poet amongst us, you know.
Is she a vocalist as well?
And fortunately not. But if Marion was a vocalist as well, there'd be no holding her back, you know. She'd be out there touring the world, you know. But because she's a very, very forward, motivated person, you know, as opposed to myself, who likes to sit in the couch most of the day.
Well, maybe she'd get you to open for her.
Oh yeah. Well, she'd definitely do that. But no, she doesn't actually sing. She'd always liked to have sung, but she hasn't got a particularly good vocal voice. Although she can talk very well, but you know, melodically, she's slightly off on occasion. Even though she can play the old organ quite well, and she's 8th grade at organ playing. It's the old style organ stuff, like classical stuff, and that.
Right.
Yeah, but no, vocally she's never been that hot. You know. Even I think at one point in her youth she actually did a backing track with Alexis Corner's daughter Sappho.
Oh, really?
And Mariam was sharing a flat at the time. And they were off to, they did I can't remember whose session it was at the time, and they both happened to be there and ended up doing a backing vocal on the thing. So I dread to think what it's, although no, Sappho had a particularly, Alexis Corner's daughter had a particularly good voice.
Right.
But I think she probably carried Marion through that backing vocal. You know.
I'm guessing right now Marion's not in the room.
No, she's not in the room. I don't know, she wouldn't mind me saying that. I mean, she knows she hasn't got a particularly good voice, you know. But she does she likes singing in church.
I was going to ask you about the amount of Hawkwind bootlegs that are out. And maybe I'm probably putting you on a spot here. I know with the computer age nowadays, music goes farther and farther, and it's out of the artist's hands.
Yeah.
But some of these bootlegs are pretty good.
I'm sure some of them are, but I'm sure I haven't got even half of them, or even a quarter of them. You know, practically every time I go out with my band on the road, at least one or two, or even three or four bootlegs that I've never heard of. People approach you to sign them,
right?
And not even out. I mean, some of the CDs and things people ask me to sign via companies.
Oh, really?
And I've never heard of them. Don't even know they exist. You know, and this happens on every tour or almost every gig I do. Somebody will turn up with something I've never heard of before.
Right.
And there's just so much, but a fair amount of those CDs and things put out through smaller companies, you can class as bootlegs anyway.
Right.
As far as I know, that people haven't had permission or any agreement to put them out. You know, so the whole thing is so out of hand, really. I mean, I almost give up with it because you just can't keep up with it. You know.
I've done a fair amount of recording for bands and that, and I've got live tapes that people really want, but I find that if I've got them, it's something that I have. It makes it more of a collector's item, of course, so you don't trade it. But from time to time, you do get permission to be able to trade with people.
Yeah.
But as long as it's not sold, and I think that with the computer age, that's almost putting an end to the bootleggers.
To an extent, yeah. I don't know, because people are always sort of willing to sort of fork out a few quid for something in their hand, you know, a cassette that's got, or a CD that's got a sleeve and stuff, haven't they?
Right.
But I mean, computers is something I'm completely illiterate. I'm completely computer illiterate myself. I don't even know. I'm sitting in front of a computer in Mary's little office here, and I don't even know how to turn it on.
Just as well, because you never know where she's been on it.
Pardon? No, what?
You never know where she's been surfing with it.
No, but I don't know how to turn it on, so I wouldn't know. But you know, if there's anything interesting comes up on the web, she always gives me a shout and tells me. You know, but I almost shy away from them because I've got a feeling that if I got into a computer, I'd never get out of it. You know, I'd just be sort of sat in front of it all day long and all night long. You know.
And in fact, Marion has a website for your band, and of course we'll be giving the address for it at the end of the show. But it's a nice little site that you got up there.
Yeah, what I've seen of it, it looks very professional to an extent. No, but I don't particularly like looking at photos of myself, so I don't take that much notice of it.
Right. Well,
I see myself in the mirror in the morning, and that's enough. You know.
Well, put on some dancing girls.
Pardon?
I says you'll have to get some dancing girls on there.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I'll get Marion to organise that.
That's about it for the time that I've got here, Hugh.
All right, mate.
I